Hey there, it's Ed from the Duke of MTB, and today I'm going to be working on my bike a little bit. It just came back from the shop for its yearly service and also had a couple of upgrades done to it. So what did we get serviced? The two most obvious things, of course, are going to be the front suspension and the rear suspension. Just had those fully serviced because the bike has definitely been through some stuff last season. Plus the switch on this rear shock was kind of acting up. If we so much as looked at it and just would lock and unlock itself. Had the chain replaced, which is something you definitely should do at least once a year, possibly more if you're an aggressive rider that rides almost every day. But we're more like weekend warriors, so once a year should do the trick. The headset was a little rusty. Actually, it was a lot rusty. The bearings inside were practically completely brown. I noticed that it was kind of grinding a little bit if I would turn the handlebar, so I asked the shop to check it out, and yeah, they had that replaced because it was just completely destroyed. And it might have something to do with the way I wash the bikes. Probably not the best way, a little too much pressure sometimes. I'm gonna have to try and not do that next time, basically. The dropper post was also serviced because my wife was complaining that it was coming up a little too slowly. Pressing on the lever was starting to become a little bit difficult. It was also going down slowly. My wife barely weighs over 100 pounds, so you don't want a dropper post that if you have to press your weight into too hard to get to work. You just want it to work. So I had that serviced. I wouldn't recommend for everybody to do that. If it's just slowing down for the average person, it's probably best to just keep using it until it really becomes kind of unbearable, basically. Because if it's just slowing down, you're blowing away $100 to get a 5% increase in performance, maybe, probably less. Because when it does slow down, it's kind of unnoticeable. It's not that noticeable. So I wouldn't recommend doing that too often unless it really isn't working anymore. So anyway, I did have the shop do an upgrade to the bike, and that has to do with the, oh, whoops, wrong direction. Genius. The hub. So originally the DT Swiss hub on my wife's bike had 18 actuation points. So we upgraded it to 54 actuation points, which is gonna make it easier on the skinnies, because you know my wife loves skinnies, and it's gonna make it easier on technical terrain, technical climbs where you gotta ratchet. So other than that, not much else has changed, but I am gonna do a couple things to the bike today. So Canyon finally started selling the Eject hydration system. It's a special water bottle cage that they made for the front triangle on their Canyon bikes, because it's kind of a tight fit. And it was really annoying with the regular bottle cage. There was a high risk of damaging something. So they finally started selling this in the United States, ordered it a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna put that in today. And they also started selling the storage thingamajigger. So that's just, you know, a safe place to put your keys maybe, or a multi-tool. And you know, we're trying to avoid using backpacks. I use like a little fanny pack kind of thing, and my wife occasionally will wear the backpack, but you know, we want to avoid that. We want to put like little backup stuff hanging somewhere on the bike, preferably. Like on my bike, I have stuff basically just Velcro tied to it or whatever. All right, so we're gonna put that in today. And another thing is Aggressor 2.5 wide trail. I don't know if you guys watched that video where we went to Blue Mountain and it was raining, and she was complaining about the grip there. And this is probably not the best tire for when it comes to like muddy conditions, but it's definitely an improvement over the Recon that comes with the Canyon Spectral. This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is an XC tire. I have nothing against XC, but once you start going downhill and your life depends on you being able to stop, then you need something a little bit more aggressive. Now, some of you might say, why not go with a DHR or another DHF in the rear? And well, we live in Michigan. There is a lot of climbing involved. So I'm looking for something that can descend really well, brake really well, but you can still climb with it. And I think the Aggressor hits the spot. I'm gonna be putting that in today, setting it up tubeless. And I also gotta set up the front tubeless because believe it or not, my wife has been riding this bike with tubes the whole time, going downhill at the bike park, and she hasn't had any issues. And that might be because, again, she's barely over 100 pounds, so I guess the tires don't get abused as much. But considering it's winter and we're not really doing any riding right now and I'm doing all this stuff to the bike, I figured it's a great opportunity to do it today, set it all up tubeless, and hopefully I don't lose my sanity doing that. Lucky for me, I bought myself a small compressor last year. It's super cheap, I think. It was roughly around 50 bucks. Considering you can get a tiny compressor for about the cost of a good floor pump, might as well do it because it makes this so much easier. It's hard enough getting the thing in and out, and then you gotta pump yourself to death. Yeah, that's no fun. All right, so let's get to it. I'm gonna start with the easy stuff that basically anybody can do, and that's put in this water bottle system hydration eject whatchamajig into here. So funny thing, it doesn't come with screws, which I find odd. I think usually when you buy a bottle cage, it comes with screws. So I had to just find some scraps from my box of random parts and stuff. And all right, let me put this thingamajigger in. I like how it goes out sideways, because originally, if you're going up, you might end up damaging your shock or something. So this is gonna solve that problem. I like how it has a little bit of adjustability here. You can go a little higher, a little lower. I'm gonna try and get it as low as possible. It's right side up, yes, good to go, it's right side up. That's very important. I am going to torque it. Already ran into a problem. How am I supposed to torque it if I can't fit my torque wrench in there? I guess I'm just gonna have to do it by feel, eh? Luckily, it's not too much of a worry if I like over torque it to like say 3 or 4, because the screw is actually gonna dig into the plastic long before it starts doing anything to the carbon. So as soon as you start feeling just a little bit of resistance, then it's a good idea to stop. Not the sturdiest bottle cage, but definitely solves the problem about the tight space and all that. And trust me, I've looked online for a bunch of different water bottle cages that'll do the trick. And none of them were good enough that they'd be worth swapping out for what we originally used. This is a Ibera bottle cage from Amazon, and it's metal. And obviously a lot of these things are metal, but I don't like the plastic ones that are like this. What I like about this one is you can just put like a regular tiny water bottle from the grocery store in here. You just press this a little bit and you can put small bottles. You can open up real big and you can put one of those 1.5 liter bottles in there, which I have done on my Trek Remedy, but that's not a possibility here. All right, I think I'm going off on a tangent here. So, give it a nice testaroni. I'm a little skeptical about the sturdiness of this thing, but I guess you don't want it to be too hard. In case of a crash, it's better for the bottle cage to break than your frame, so maybe that's what they were going with here. It does look kind of bulky, doesn't it? From the side, not bad at all. But what really matters is that my wife stays hydrated on the rides. All right, let's put the front dealy-majigger in. Take out these little rubber screws that they have in here to keep water, I guess, from getting in, or it just looks neater. That's another thing. Whoa, that is a tight fit. Huh? Do we have a fit? Do the holes line up? Seems like it. And it looks like it's gonna protect the rear shock from getting locked out by accident, or the rebound damping accidentally maybe turned. So that's something. How does it look from this side? I feel like my wife's bike is gonna start looking a little heavy. So it comes with these 3 plastic, kind of meant to be used by hand screws. I hope my wife likes this. She might look at it and be like, what did you do to my bike? It looks so ugly now. Or something along those lines. Okay, so I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Now it's time to set up the rear tire tubeless. Okay, wish me luck. Obviously I'm not a mechanic, because a mechanic would have been just like ninja, tires off. Okay. All right, let's get the air out. Boy, there's a lot of air in this thing. And it stinks. It stinks. Why does it stink, I wonder? You know, what is there like bacteria growing in our tires? Stale air or something? All right, goodbye tube. Still a usable tire. Good idea to just set it aside in case of emergencies for future use. All right, let's just make sure that the rim tape here is in good condition. This wheel comes with the rim tape already put on. Everything seems to be a-okay. I just give it a little wiperoni. So, now, let's get that Aggressor on there, eh? Oh, look at that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thread pattern. Tread pattern or thread pattern? I don't freaking know. All right, so a lot of people would usually do a dry run or whatever, but I'm just gonna go ahead and pour some in there. Try to just get it done. Turn around, make sure everything's right in the middle. That'll make it easier to get that last bit in. Oh my God, look at that, that was ridiculously easy. Usually it's like ridiculously hard. It's funny, I actually had a harder time freaking taking out the old tire than I did put it in the new one. It usually should be the other way around. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pump it up a little over the PSI that I'm gonna be running. It's probably gonna go all the way to like 50. Give it a few banks to make sure the bead gets seated, and then drop the pressure to a regular riding pressure, which for Corey on the rear would be about 20 PSI for 2.5 tire on a 30 mm inner width rim, I guess. All right, I have no clue what I'm saying. So, yep, next. Let's just pretend that I know what I'm talking about. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna have to wait for the compressor to probably get up to like, I don't know, 80 PSI, so that when I press the lever, it's just gonna all flood in there. And it doesn't mean that if it's 80 PSI in there, it's gonna be 80 PSI in the tire. It's probably gonna go like up to 40 right off the bat, just like that. All right, I got about 60 PSI in the tank. I'm gonna go for it. There you go. Just gonna look away just in case something really blows up. Well, that was ridiculously easy. It's so easy with the thing, it's completely seated. Just gonna go ahead and go down to 20. So let's put that back in there. And then I'm gonna do the front wheel. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so now I'm gonna do the front tire real quick. I imagine it's gonna be a little easier since I don't have to take the tire all the way out. Well, F it, gonna use this. Just gotta be careful, you know, they always say, oh, don't do it, you're gonna puncture this or that. Just gotta be careful, you know? Every little bit of care counts. Goodbye, tube. Now let's put another one of them valves in there. For those of you that have no clue what I'm talking about, this is what it looks like. It's basically just a valve, sans tube, and it's got a little bit of rubber in here. And sometimes it'll have a little bit of rubber on this side too, so that you can get a nice airtight thingamajig in there. And if it isn't perfectly airtight, not really an issue because the sealant's gonna, you know, fill in the gaps there. Tighten it a little bit. This is a horrible tool to use. This is too big. I used to have a really tiny one, but I lost it. I have no clue what happened. That was really useful for this kind of stuff. These things always kind of loosen up on me, so that's why I want to make sure it's slightly past hand tight. Put some sealant, gently turn it around. Again, you want to put the whole bead to the groove of the wheel. There you go. And it goes in super easy. Wham bam, popped into place. Didn't even have to use a lot of pressure. That's pretty much it. Tire setup toolless. Let me give this a little spin because I forgot again. And you don't want all that sealant just staying at the bottom and hardening there. Okay, let's give it a test ride around the basement. Man, it sure looks a whole lot more enduro now than it did before. And considering my wife's height, like my wife's size to bike size ratio, to her this is basically an enduro bike. The suggested size for my wife's height from Canyon would be an extra small, but they don't sell an extra small in the United States. So she rides an extra small, and like with the reach and everything, this actually becomes a pretty perfect bike for her at downhill bike parks. And since it's technically still a trail bike, it's also good for everything else. So it just kind of worked out really well when we bought this bike. So perfect. I love this bike for her, basically. All right. Whoo-wee. Too big for this bike. The rear tire sounds weird because it's fresh. It's got that rubbery sound going for it. Oh boy, I'm so excited to go back to riding on dry dirt. So that's pretty much it. I don't really know why I made this video. Just showing regular work on a bike that I'm sure all of you have had to go through at some point. You know, I find my wife's bike really interesting in a lot of ways, and I love working on it, and I figured I'd share it with you guys. So I'm sure somebody out there is interested in seeing how other people set up their bikes, in what ways, why they make certain changes, for example. And I know I've watched a bunch of videos wondering those same things, and they've helped me decide on what I'm gonna do with my bike. And then of course you go through the whole process, you do a bunch of things, you realize like, whoops, this was unnecessary. Didn't really make much of a difference, and I spent $100 or $500 or whatever on it, and now I kind of regret it. And it's a lesson learned. the next time you get another bike, you start figuring out what really is a priority and what isn't. Like servicing a dropper post because it's 1% slower than it used to be. I realize now I probably should have waited until it was a little worse, but at the same time, not a big fan of hearing my wife complain. So yeah, get that done. And yeah, see you guys next time. I think that's enough of me yapping into the camera. I'm sure at this point you guys are tired of my voice. So until next week or two, maybe, I don't know, I'll see ya. Have a good one.